Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be finishing a project that I started a while ago. I just never had time to finish it, so let's go check it out. You do not know how long it took me to get that shot. Comment down below if you thought it looked cool. But like I said, we're going to be finishing this hammer. I've had this printed for a really long time. I'm pretty sure it's a Thingiverse file. I'll be linking it down in the description in case you wanted to print it yourself. Honestly, great file. I have some PLA welding here because I had a really big layer shift, so I messed that up, so I got to sand that off. But I haven't been able to finish this project just because of how cold it's been outside. So now I think I should be able to get this all sanded, get it all finished, and paint it, and hopefully make it something that I can hang up on the shelf. And speaking of hanging stuff up on the shelf, I have all my masks hung up here now. And I 3D printed some brackets that I can use to hold these on the shelves. And I have that as a short on my YouTube channel, so if you're interested, please go check that out. And enough of me yapping, we gotta finish this guy. Alright, so we got the hammer right here, and I think that we are ready to start sanding this, getting it smooth. We're gonna start with a really low grit, just to get some of these big PLA welds out of there, and some of the big layer lines, just to make sure that looks really nice and smooth. And then we're gonna slowly build up the grit. And we're going to use some primer just to make sure that we get a really smooth finish, so this looks really good when it's finished. So let's do that. So after that sanding, I noticed that there are still a lot of gaps on these PLA welds. There are still a lot of divots and gaps on these, so I'm probably gonna get some spot putty, some Bondo or something, and fill those in and then sand that down again, and then we'll start priming and really getting this down to sanding it just to get it looking really perfect. So let's go into that. Alright, it's the next day. I gave that Bondo some time to dry and to set, and then I sanded that off, so now it's looking really smooth. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hit this with this first coat of primer just to get it all nice and cohesive. Then we can sand that down and get it really nice and smooth, and then we can hit it with some paint. So let's go into that. Alright, we got that all primed. While we wait for that to dry, I think we're going to do some sanding on the handle. So let's do that. Okay, now this is mostly dry, the main hammer head. So I'm going to flip this over and make sure I paint this bottom part just one more time to make sure that that's good, and then we should be able to do a little bit more sanding and then get on to the final paint job. Alright, so that's all dry now, and I think we can get into a last bit of sanding just to get this nice and smooth before we start painting it the silver color. So let's start sanding. on the handle that needs to be silver. So now we're gonna mask off the silver parts with some masking tape, and then we're gonna paint the rest of the handle brown, and then I'm gonna hand paint all the details on it silver. So let's do that. All right, now the last bit of painting that we have to do is these little details on the handle, and I'm gonna be hand painting those with some of this silver paint, just because I didn't want to have to mask all this off. So let's get into that. All right, now that this is done being painted, we can start assembling everything. So I've got the main hammerhead, and I've got all those little details that need to be put on. And I'm just gonna use some E6000 glue to attach this all. So first, I'm just gonna put that little disc on top, and that should just fit snugly on there. Make sure that it's not going anywhere. All right, and then all of these little details should just need a little bit of glue to hold them on. I honestly don't know why it was designed this way. I don't know why I picked this file, but it might have been to save some of the details from being lost when it was printing. Oh, that fell off, so I'm going to need to reglue that at the end. But all of these need to be glued on now. So I can slide all those in. And honestly, that looks really nice so far. And then we'll just put a dab of glue on each of these other sides. And then these should just press right in. And I do not know where the original file went. I could not find it for the life of me. So I will be linking a Thor Hammer file. It won't be the exact one that I used in this video though. So just be aware of that. And I'm just gonna put a little bit more glue on the top bit here. Make sure that it doesn't fall off. And press that in. All right, and then I'm just gonna leave that like that. All right, now this handle's dry, so I should be able to put everything together. Pull this back a little bit. I'm gonna throw some glue on the handle. It's all spread out. All right, and then I'm just gonna throw this on. Okay, there's a lot of excess glue, so I'm just gonna wipe that off before I put it all the way in. Make sure it's all the way off. Alright, and then put that in. Make sure it's facing the right way. And this should be done now. Just got to give it some time for everything to dry. Alright, here we go. We got the finished product. It's all glued together. Honestly, I think this turned out really great. I love how the painting and the sanding turned out. This is probably the first print that I've really put in the effort to get it to look this good. And I didn't end up putting a clear coat on the silver parts just because the paint that I use won't take a clear coat, and I don't want to like take that risk and it maybe start like bubbling up and reacting, because that happened with one of my prints when I put a clear coat on it, and I just don't want that to happen. So I'll just be using this as display, so it doesn't really matter that it's not going to have a clear coat. But other than that, I think this turned out really good. love how it turned out. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. And if you'd like to, please comment what you think I should make next.